Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Coin Republic podcast. My name is Shor Bacharya. Real estate is one of the OG industries out there, but with the advent of digital ledger technologies and other synthetic data related technologies, a lot of people are connecting some industry related dots. What you need in the end of the day is a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit and a little bit of journalistic curiosity to put together a podcast where we talk about all of these topics, the impact of up and coming technologies in shaping this OG industry. To talk about this topic, I have the perfect person. She is the CEO of Solidblock, one of the most talked about digital real estate companies out there that have been in existence since 2018, and they've been the talk of the town. So we'll try to understand how did they figure out this field and what's the impact of it in the traditional industry as well. Just like always, treat this podcast as you please. Use the timestamps to navigate throughout the podcast. Share it, like it, and also go ahead and visit www.thecoinrepublic.com to get the full inscription of this podcast. Without further ado, it is my honor to introduce you guys to the screen, Madam Yael Tamar. Welcome.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me, Saurav.
Well, you guys have been doing a lot of work since 2018. Could you give us an overview of Solidblock and what inspired its creation?
Absolutely. So it's very interesting you referred to real estate as an OG industry. And it's true in a way. Real estate is basically the essential industry for people to exist, right? So it's an industry that kind of envelops our life. And it's a basic asset that humans use to, number one, of course, to live, work. Some of us even if you work from home, you work from real estate, right? It's just kind of commercial and residential are mixed nowadays. So that really is the industry that is the base. It's a very basic asset, yet very few people in the world have access to actually owning this asset, right? The majority of us rent our homes, offices, and so on. And it appears to be that in order to grow wealth, you need these very basic assets to really stabilize kind of your life. So the idea originated really out of my co-founder and myself being in the financial industry in one way or the other. And kind of learning about assets, learning about real estate, and so on. And at a certain point, arriving to the blockchain industry, right? So for myself, it was after a long career in capital markets and things like VC, Ernst & Young, working on IPOs, M&A, private equity, a hedge fund, and structured products. And then finally getting to the place where I personally understood that transactions in the 21st century, in the mid-2010s, they need to be totally different, right? For anything, for the way we transact assets, the way we transact just money exchange, goods and services and things like that. And so I discovered crypto and I discovered blockchain technology in 2016, 2017, worked on a lot of economic models, economics. I studied economics, that's my profession. And I worked on economic models for what's known as utility tokens, ICOs, initial coin offerings, things like that. And I realized that model is imperfect because there is no underlying asset behind it. Anything that has an underlying asset behind it is securities. And we'll talk about it later, what that means. And that's also my profession of 15 years dealing with securities. And so kind of I had this realization back in 2017, 2018, that we need to use the same tech, but we need to use it for products that are, have existed for, probably thousands of years. If we look back, like in the religious texts, like about like people selling assets, people selling securities, right? So, and that's how the idea was born. And we chose real estate because it's a very, very basic asset. Like, let's use this technology to revolutionize the way people transact these assets and people invest and trade in these assets.
Yeah, but do you guys identify yourself as REITs, real estate investment trusts? Because that's a thing that most of the people understand a real estate company doing. They own a lot of real estate and probably, make it accessible to other investors. How do you guys differentiate yourself or identify yourself as REITs?
That's a great question, Saurav. So we're not a real estate company at a core. We are a technology company, technology platform. And REITs are a tax and compliance structure for funds, essentially for investment companies, to be able to buy and sell assets as a whole. You can buy and sell commercial assets as a part of this real estate investment trust. That's the REIT, real estate investment trust. And you enjoy different kinds of tax breaks and things like that from the government. But on the other hand, you have a lot of requirements in order to enjoy that in terms of compliance and reporting and things like that. And so that's one of the ways that large companies, large asset owners and investors were able to do business. Now, they can, of course, REITs can bring smaller investors on board to basically participate in the creation of wealth, right, from these investments and capital gains. So some REITs are private, so you bring private investors on board. Some REITs are public. Now, we actually can tokenize REITs. So this is a fund, and it issues securities to investors, whether privately or publicly, and we can tokenize REITs. However, once it gets to that scale, you can really go public on a public exchange. Our vision was really to enable any asset owner, although it would work best for a commercial yielding real estate asset. Let's say there's a shopping mall at $100 million value. We might have mortgage, so of about $60-70 million, and the owners will actually ideally own the equity portion, what's left out, right, from the mortgage. There's usually the equity and debt, right? Yeah. So, we're talking about these types of asset owners that really are sitting on a lot of asset, right? And they don't want to sell it, but they want to leverage it further on top of the mortgage. And it's actually possible with bringing in investors privately. In fact, the whole economy in the world is really based on these private securities, right? Not the public that we all, most of the people have a stock portfolio, whether by themselves or via their pension fund, which invests on their behalf, right? Almost everybody has some sort of a pension fund, which is sitting,
401k or something like
401k, that. Exactly. And someone else is choosing your stocks, and they usually use what's called traditional assets, public assets. And then there's also alternative assets, which is private. But the majority of the economy is not Apple, Google, Tesla, and other public stocks. It's actually private securities. There's $300 trillion worth of real estate in the world. And there's also a lot of private companies issuing stock to private investors. We just don't know about them. And that's why people are upset when they're like, well, how come I didn't hear about Tesla when it came out? How come I didn't hear about Bitcoin when it came? I did hear, but I didn't think it was anything worth looking into, and so on and so forth, right? And by the time you hear about these opportunities, they go public, and the whole growth has already occurred. Same thing with real estate. If you have an opportunity to invest early, you get to benefit from the growth, and that's what we are here to do. We're here to make this process of private investment standard, transparent, available, and tradable.
Through tokenization, is that at the core of your services? And in that note, could you let us know what are the advantages of tokenizing real estate using digital ledger technologies?
Yeah. So the core of what we're doing is, in fact, tokenization. And so that's at the core, issuing a very traditional security with very traditional regulatory oversight and compliance. And that security usually comes in a paper format. So essentially, let's say I am an asset owner, I own a shopping mall, and I want to renovate it, or I want to build a new one. And I'm sitting on this shopping mall that has a mortgage, and it has, let's say, $25 million in equity. I can call Sarav and say, you know me, I can make money on real estate, and look at these reports, they're profitable. I can give you 8% annual return, and I'm expecting a growth in the value of the asset over the next 5 years with average 10-year annual growth, right? Return. Okay. So you can invest, from, let's say, $10,000 to $1 million in my asset. Usually what I would give you, I would sign you to a subscription agreement. I would have an offering memorandum of some sort, and then you'll get a PDF and put it in your folder, and I'll get the PDF and put it in my folder. And that's how it's going to be. Now, millennials and new generations, they don't invest this way anymore. And number one, it's hard to trust. I could go to my circle, but I want to go beyond my circle to people that don't know me. And number two, it's if it's sitting in a PDF format somewhere, you cannot exit. It's not an investment. You're illiquid. You put in $1 million, and you don't know when you're going to get it back, right? And you might want to sell it to someone else. So what we do is, on top of this process, we still do this. We get people to assign, agreements that are traditional online, but we also record your purchase automatically in the public blockchain ledger. Obviously, it's encrypted, doesn't have your information and stuff like that. It has the information of your wallet. Now, the wallet is a very basic unit in the blockchain world that is very, very important and significant. You know why, Saurabh?
One of the recent news that came out with Ledger, that was about, the wallet security, about seed phrases, I understand the sentiment behind it.
Yeah. So the wallet itself is basically infrastructure where your assets are sitting. So Ledger is one of the types of wallets. It's like a cold wallet, and it's sitting in your drawer. And that's why you need these seed phrases so that you can actually log in. I personally, I have that, and I have a few of those. But personally, I like managed wallets, like compliant organizations, like, let's say, Coinbase, or any wallet that's managed by a large, usually US-based, the European-based organization that is responsible for keeping you safe, right? So the wallet in general in blockchain is very interesting because it basically carries your identity, it carries your assets, it facilitates transactions. It's basically the wallet number is something blockchains can understand, right? Can understand, read information, and write information, and it's amazing. You cannot have that with your bank account, because all the banks, they speak different languages, right? Different code. So I can't. There are certain systems that banks use to communicate with each other, and there's some apps like Plaid, for example, that enables connection to your bank account. But once you have a wallet, it's basically kind of a place or a tool or an app, right? That's what's beautiful about blockchain. Anyway, so once your asset is sitting in your wallet, that's where you're going to get your reports. That's where you're going to get your dividends. That's where you're going to get your interest. That's where you're going to get proceeds from the sale of the asset. And that's where you're also going to be able to communicate with the asset owner. And that's basically a beautiful thing, right? And it's independent from our platform even. Like, if Solidblock was to disappear for some reason, you still have your assets on the blockchain, right? And you can prove that you actually bought
seed phrases.
Yeah. Well, no, you didn't need seed phrases actually on our platform, because it's a managed solution. It's a third-party custodial managed solution.
Okay, third-party custodial.
Yeah, the seed phrases, which you can lose, right? You only need if you want to use a decentralized solution completely, right?
Right.
So so that's basically it. So that's the first advantage. You're getting your security. It's digital, and it's also fractionalized, right? You might have bought $1 million worth of securities, but you only want to sell 100,000.
Is there any? Sorry to cut you off. Is there any particular reason why you went through third-party custodial services and over, a decentralized approach?
Yeah, of course. Most institutions and most people are not comfortable with decentralized approach yet. We give you an option to put your security into a decentralized solution like a MetaMask or Ledger wallet, whatever you want. You won't be able to get your dividends and things like that there for now, because we still have to figure out the security aspects of it. So you'll still have a wallet on our platform where we record the purchase and so on, and that's how you communicate and you get things. But most institutions are they expect what's called institutional grade solution, and most people like custodial approach. I do definitely. Right. I lose my passwords and phrases all the time. Yeah.
Right. May I ask what third-party custodial services are you guys using for your services?
Sure. It's called Fortress Trust. Yeah, it's a U.S. company. Gives you a wallet and a custody service for digital securities, digital assets, crypto. So it will also custody your crypto. It's connected to an exchange, and we open a bank account for you when you set up.
It's interesting that you mentioned banks. You also mentioned the word compliance multiple times. So banks are failing. We looked at the Silicon Valley banks collapse. SEC is having a tight grip over certain crypto assets, identifying them as securities, trying to identify them as securities, lawsuits happening left and right. What sort of regulatory challenges and compliance-related challenges did you guys encounter in tokenizing the real estate space?
So we actually view compliance more as an opportunity now, but in the beginning, I think the biggest challenge for us was that the asset owners wanted us to help them market the tokens, and that's marketing securities, solicitation. So that's already the purview of broker dealers, and so it's kind of it's a very tricky area, marketing securities. And so from the very beginning of our existence, we had several different models, one in which we partnered with our clients to issue securities, and then that was very costly and not scalable. So then we decided that we're going to look for partnership, a merger or acquisition of a broker dealer. And that's something that we're actually currently finalizing, should come out in several days with an announcement. And that's where we came up with an additional solution which will revolutionize the market. There are a lot of tokenization platforms out there. Yes, we were the first to tokenize real estate, but we're not the only ones. Yeah, and so what we get together with all the other players and our friends in the industry, we talk about what's missing, and what really is missing is the liquidity itself. It's great now that tokens can facilitate liquidity. You can trade. You couldn't trade paper. Your paper is sitting in the desk or on the desk, but you can trade the tokens that are sitting in the wallet. But who's buying those tokens? Are they standard? Where's the information? Can you aggregate them into structured products? Can you lend against them? There's all these financial services and how economy operates. And most importantly, is there a secondary market? Who's buying them? Is there one platform where all of this stuff is aggregated? So that's where we realized, how can you actually facilitate liquidity? And liquidity in general, the definition of liquidity is how fast you can convert an asset into cash. So obviously the most liquid asset out there is cash. You take cash, and then you go to
buy anything you want,
right? Even though, like, for example, in public transportation in Tel Aviv, where I live, you cannot pay with cash anymore. So so that's basically the meaning of cash. I was looking for cash.
So how are you guys filling in the blanks in the liquidity space?
Exactly. So then you have assets like stocks, which are fairly liquid, right? You can sell them most of the time, on the public platforms. You have things, like pension funds, and you can usually within like 5 or 7 days take stuff out. You have real estate, which is much more difficult because not only you have to sell it, you have to also do all the paperwork and legal stuff,
Right.
right? And
Right.
then, of course, there's private securities of companies, and you usually have to wait until the next round to sell them to someone else. So how do we make sure that stuff is sold? Well, we looked at other markets. Like, even if you look, let's say that, you have collectibles, like you have stamps, right? And apparently there's a market for those, and there are marketplaces and things like that. And then you have sneakers, or you have, fashion, or you have NFTs, or you have almost anything that sells really quickly. If you look at the history of crypto, is sold through affiliation and affiliate marketing. That's basically for the last 20 years. That's how everything is sold, right? And the rise of social media fueled that. So then we looked into, how do we create affiliation for securities? Well, you cannot market securities unless you're a broker, you're a licensed broker. So we're now creating affiliation, basically an affiliate distribution platform for brokers specifically to market and remarket securities. But all of that is going to be on the blockchain. So brokers can get together. There is a full transparency and tracking and data of when your introductions actually bear fruit, right? If I introduce somebody to you, when you're raising money, I normally don't even know when the investment occurs. And, sometimes I don't get paid because I didn't ask. And usually that's why brokers don't work on many different relationships. They can have one or two and then follow up all the time, make sure they get their money, and there's accounting and other things. If you do this on the blockchain, you instantly get your payout. You get, transparently when the lead went in, when they saw it, when you need to talk to them, push them a little more. And also, what your leads are interested in. You get a wealth of data. And what else is out there right now that's super hot? That's AI, right? So combining all that with a possibility to analyze and predict, it's going to be a very powerful solution.
I agree. You guys mainly deal in STOs, right? Security token offerings. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So for the uninitiated, how would you differentiate between an initial coin offering, which is another term that is quite crypto friendly? A lot of people have heard of it, and a security token offering that is, a lot of people don't know about it. How would you differentiate them?
Yeah, so initial coin offering was quite popular, like in 2016, 2017. And it basically issued what's called a utility token. And back then, the regulators, just were getting familiarized with these terms. And utility token is basically like a ticket to ride for a subway that's being built. So, in fact, the riders are paying for the subway to be built. And when it's built, they can use these tickets they can either use these tokens to buy the tickets, or they can actually use them as tickets. But this can apply to any platform. And there are a lot of platforms out there that are infrastructure, right? Exactly like that, like a subway, on which different tools and things are running. And so these tokens were quite popular way to raise capital. Now, that was the good thing. The bad thing was that it's very difficult for regular people and regulators to define what is a utility, what is a security. And the difference between that utility and security is that security is when you're actually buying a piece of a company that is growing in value, and you're buying it because you know that it's going to grow in value. So like when you buy an apartment, you expect for it to grow, right? Hopefully. And when you invest in a company, you invest because you believe in the vision and you expect for that value to grow. And so the US regulators just said, forget about it. We're going to treat anything as a security. So that happened in 2017, 2018. And the whole ICO market has collapsed. A lot of governments followed suit. And even though they might be less stringent and more lenient towards utility, like in markets in Asia, and they, you have to still register your tokens in most places to be able to raise funds. But for the security market, which is a long standing market, we take the approach that our assets are securities from the start. and we're going to go through all of the regulation that we need to go through to register. Thankfully, most governments recognize that for small and medium-sized enterprises and asset owners, issuing a security shouldn't be as difficult as placing, let's say, Facebook on a public exchange. Shouldn't take as long and be as expensive. So there are these exemptions that allow us to do it fast and at a cost-efficient manner.
Mm-hmm. Could you, I mean, guys, you guys have been practically doing all of this since 2018. Could you name us a couple of successful projects that you guys handled, a couple of success stories?
Yeah. So the first project we did was Aspen St. Regis Ski Resort, which issued a security token in order to recapitalize. So basically bring in new investors, let other investors exit, invest a little bit in the infrastructure, increasing occupancy of the resort, and so on. So it basically resulted in the increase of the value of the asset and dividends increase as well. And so this was a very successful offering, which is now trading on a secondary exchange, trading also at about 2.5 times the original value at which it was issued, which is great. Great type of an increase. And that's one of the projects. We had several other interesting projects. Some were detox centers, basically the psychological help centers. It's also commercial real estate in the US. And we also have a couple of short-term hospitality businesses in the US, which basically enable individuals to build kind of, little by little, build up their business from, let's say, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and higher number of assets that they then lend out. We basically focus on commercial real estate and a lot of hotels.
Aspen, the birthplace of Hunter S. Thompson. It's a beautiful place. What a beautiful place. Yeah. I sort of envy your job because you have to go to these places and then it's a beautiful place.
Yeah. I don't always go, but I go to a lot of cool places.
So a lot of people are now trying to understand, how does it go? What's the process? How does it go about? How do you guys select a project? How do these guys, like you guys do literal brick and mortar businesses, right? So how do you guys onboard client, and what's the step-by-step process of, making them a success story as well?
Yeah. So onboarding, you hit a nail on the head. In our business, where you have a lot of assets and they have a lot of documents, a lot of aspects, a lot of it not standard, onboarding takes a long time, a lot of manpower. That's something that actually we realized recently that we can automate, and using AI tools. We've been around since 2018, so that's over 4 years. And so the number of conversations that I've had with leads and clients, well, just with leads, over 2,000 when we calculated. The number of conversations with clients, because that would be like, a weekly or bi-weekly conversation. A lot of that was recorded, converted into text and stuff like that. And so we have such a wealth of information now, a wealth of data and Q&A and things that can, just it's mind-boggling. I don't think anybody in the industry has that. And so, by the way, we were very early adopters of Firefly's AI, and
wow.
Every time, and one of our new investors actually invested in them. That's quite interesting. But we and every single call, I remember people are asking. Nobody actually asked us to take it out, almost nobody. But people are like, "What is this? What is this?" on the call, and we'll explain, that this is a note taker. And now we only realize, like a few months ago, and like what we're sitting on, right? Sorry, I'm actually giving out all my industrial secrets here. So
your competitors are taking notes here.
Yeah, I know. So now we're actually working on creating this, automated onboarding, which will make everybody's lives easier. I also created a course for anybody that wants to take, whether they're a layman or a potential client or an asset owner, how to securitize, first of all. What is the security? And then what is different about security in the blockchain? But the process, and by the way, the process there is explained step by step. But just a very quick, to issue a security, you need to create an offering memorandum, all the legal documentation, things like that. And then based on that, we build a smart contract, which is a digital version of the investment contract that will be tradable. And it's connected to connects you to the security that you bought. And so once you put it in, once it goes from your wallet to someone else's wallet, then they're now getting all the benefits of your investment, of your original investment. Now you're getting proceeds from it, right? And then it's tradable. You can also collateralize it. We have lenders that will lend against those tokens, and we have entities that create funds of tokens now.
Mm-hmm. And the UI UX is quite beginner friendly, would you say? I mean, those who don't understand the DLTs and blockchain technology, those who want to get in bed with you guys, how is how does it look like? Is it easy for them?
Blockchain is just a back-end tool for us, at least. We're not, they don't need to understand tokens or even compliance or fintech. Like, these things are difficult for people in real estate.
To understand.
And that's okay. Right. Like, they know real estate better than us, and all the ins and outs of construction.
You guys are a technology company. That's what you said in the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. And so our job is to make their process as easy as possible. It looks like a regular Web2 marketplace with some probably better UI, because we work with actual clients. And the advantage of kind of working with us, even at this stage, because now that we're onboarding broker dealers, is that, sometimes we get a client and they're like, wait, I really need this feature. And then we go to some other clients and we ask them, okay, is this critical? And it's good. And they're like, yeah, we need that. So that's the advantage of kind of working with startups that are in the process. And so we continuously improve our UX.
Fantastic. You mentioned about a course for those who didn't take notes, the competitors. Okay. How would they avail of the course? What could they look forward to if they buy one? I'm signing up later. So let me know.
Yeah, so we have it on our website, solidblock.co. It's somewhere under a menu. And definitely it gives you also an introduction into real estate. So it gives you basic understanding of the real estate market business. And, there's a whole chapter devoted to what are REITs, right? and how they work. And, what is the criteria? What are the criteria for, let's say, investing, and how you look at real estate, what kind of types of deals are there, what kind of securities are there, what is the compliance, what in general is compliance, what is liquidity, and so on and so forth, right? What is the difference between utility and security? What we talked about here today is a 10-hour version of that. And, there's a quiz at the end. We don't, it's for everybody. It's not, we don't really grade you on it. Yeah. But
Cardone does have competition now.
It's true. I really respect him. He has a really big, he has a very big real estate business too.
10xing.
Yeah.
You guys are any future projects you guys are looking forward to that you could spill the beans here on the podcast? Yeah.
So we have some new clients that have just signed up. I will announce it, and we're happy to announce it also on your platform. A major hotel in the Caribbean. And we also, of course, acquired a broker dealer called Viant Capital. We're super excited about that.
That's good. So the broker license is in through them.
Yeah, so it's still, there's still a FINRA process for change of ownership. So, it's pending, the official acquisition is pending FINRA approval, but we're, working on that with whatever is required. But we're really excited to bring the CEO of Viant, Scott Smith, on board. Is ex-Credit Suisse and just generally a very, very well-connected and well-respected broker in the industry. For me, it kind of completes our team. We brought in also a CFO, COO, Amit Cherniak, also ex-VC and management consultant in technology whiz. Basically, for me, it completes the picture of myself being a capital markets person / analyst and technologist, marketer, and blockchain enthusiast, I would say, with some real estate experience as well. To bring somebody who is a pro at fundraising, brokerages, being able to sell assets, distribute assets, and distribute securities, it's incredible. And then the third partner being the basically the money guy, with a finger on on the clock and on the money money flow of how investors' money is going to be spent in the best possible way. Yeah, so we're actually completing our first raise for this new entity, and to finish up this transaction, and we're opening up a new round. If anybody's interested, I'm happy to provide more details.
Fantastic. Since we're talking about money, let's end the podcast on that note. Money, one of the biggest markets out there. I mean, I know you guys are going to Caribbean and all, but one of the biggest markets out there is the Middle East, Dubai. They love DLTs. They love metaverses. Are you guys going to come here? I do want to interview in person one day.
Yeah, I'm there quite a lot actually in Dubai. I have close contact with different regulators in Dubai, different real estate companies, and also law firms that are working on tokenization. So we have some things going on. The market itself is getting ready, I would say, for a solution. And we have other things going on in the Middle East that we'll be ready to announce soon. We have some really, really interesting projects and partnerships.
So going international was definitely not going to be a challenge for you guys. It's already there.
Yeah, the challenge is to focus always for any startup. So we focused exclusively on the US market in the first 4 years. And now we've started to branch out a little bit. During COVID, it was impossible to travel anywhere but the UAE, the oasis, of the world now. So we went and familiarized ourselves with the local market, and we met a lot of people from all over the Middle East. So right now we really are continuing to focus on the US as the base of assets and money as well. And the second market is going definitely to be some of the wealthiest countries in the Middle East.
No doubt. And also, no doubt, gentlemen, I would like to suggest to all those budding real estate agents who want to dabble into digital technologies and how these things work, do check Solidblock out. They got a course. You yourself teach that course. So, you guys could have a glimpse here. How does she take the class? Go ahead and check it out. It's really interesting. Madam Yale, it's an honor to have you on the podcast. Any parting remarks from you?
Thank you for having me. I think it's very important to keep the dialogue open and spread the message to as many people as we can about different ways the blockchain technology, the crypto technology, can benefit the world. For me right now, my biggest mission is to create basically a decentralized investment bank, because we need one. We need one desperately, because liquidity is very tight. When liquidity is tight, who suffers? Usually the people, generally the levels of population that are at the very bottom. So for us to create the money in the market that's needed to, to provide for just even very basic things, I believe that the ability to create better liquidity for private assets, it's going to be key for everything.
That's how you're going to do it. All right. Fantastic. Send love to Solidblocks, ladies and gentlemen. Like, share, subscribe to the Coin Republic. We're definitely going to keep an eye on you guys and stay connected. Thank you very much for joining, ladies and gentlemen.